Hey, this is Jay Kumar, the BassBlaster, and this is your Seafoam top 5 ways to improve bass fishing everywhere. Number 1. Pole docks, floating docks, marina docks, pipe docks, old docks, new docks, Johann Sebastian docks. What's better for bass fishing than a lake ringed with docks? Man, you've got year-round shallow cover that is bait fish, panfish, and bass magnets, and it's a real nice place for families of bass to move in, like subdivisions. And you can make those subdivision docks even more attractive with little brush piles and such. And they can be fished with all kinds of baits, little finesse stuff like shaky heads, up to spinner baits, jigs, crankbaits, and even big old swim baits like we saw at the Lake of the Ozarks Bassmaster Open a few weeks back. The Lake of the Ozarks being one of the dock capitals of the United States. Okay, lots of docks mean a lot of other boats on the water, but what if lakes that didn't even have houses on them had docks? Can you imagine a lake ringed with docks and no one whining about you fishing them?
You threw up in my boat slip, thinking you could do something.
No wake boats or ski boats churning up the water? Just docks? Man, tell me that wouldn't be amazing. Think of it this way, if you could design your own 100-acre private bass lake, would you put docks on it? Heck yeah, you would, man. Remember, they're number 2. Well, I guess some babies don't like grass, just like some lakeshore homeowners apparently don't like aquatic grass. Maybe we should call them big babies. All right, I'm just messing. Anyhow, as we all know, a bunch of them are always trying to get rid of the grass in their lakes, and I got to thinking, why do they have the most say? Is it their lake? No. So why aren't we fishermen who outnumber them big time? Why aren't we out there campaigning for more grass? I mean, people have been fishing lakes a lot longer than they have jet skiing and wakeboarding and whatever else, so what does that tell you? Lakes are for fishing! I'm serious! We all know that grass is a great food chain deal. It's a great breeding and feeding and hiding spots for the little critters that bait fish eat. And then, of course, the panfish move in there and the bass move in there. And of course, grass is a great area for sheltering small bass, baby bass, whatever you want to call them, that grow, and even the giant bass are in there. And yep, it's great for fishing, man, because the fish are there. They're in the grass. And when you're rolling down the grass with a chatterbait jackhammer, what's better in the world? Man, if you have grass in your lakes, consider yourself lucky, because some of us have to live in states that have bad bass fisheries, DNRs that don't care, and no grass. And a little grass will go a long way, man.
Went a little, went a long way.
Number 3. California got a rep as the giant largemouth bass capital of the world for a while because they stocked Florida bass in deep lakes that they also put trout in. And those bass realized pretty quick that those trout were as tasty and packed with calories as a Cinnabon. So they got fat and happy, and largemouths over 20 pounds were being seen and caught for a while. Then, also in California, Bullard's Bar Reservoir was the scene of a bunch of spotted bass records. This time these bass were imported from Alabama, and they got to be feasty beasties by eating all these kokanee salmon that were in the lake. And as my bud Mark Copley described them one time, those kokanee salmon are fat bombs. And that's why the spotted bass record still stands over there. For years, Bullard's Bar was the lake that could not be named because locals were paranoid it would get fished out. Which makes no sense because everybody releases bass. But you ever tried talking to a paranoid person?
There is no Pepe Sylvia. The man does not exist, okay?
Now the newest lake that can't be named, aka Lake Voldemort, is in Idaho, and apparently no one's allowed to talk about it except the Idaho DNR, which is constantly blasting stuff out about it because it's pumping out incredibly huge smallmouth bass. And the reason? Kokanee salmon. So the kokanee salmon are making the smallmouth there obese and huge and grotesquely beautiful. And then they did the same thing at Bullard's Bar and I think a couple of other California lakes. And their relatives, trout, stocker trout, did it all over California. Seeing a pattern? So if you have a not so great DNR, but they love to raise stocker trout, maybe convince them to chuck some giant Florida hybrid bass in there and see what happens, man. Number 4. Did you know that lakes and their bass fisheries don't have to just fade away? Like, wow, it was great 30 years ago, but it'll never be that good again? Well, it is possible. The only problem is state DNRs don't know it's possible, and even if they did know, they wouldn't know how to do it. I had a little clip on this in another top 5 a while back, gonna rerun it. Here we go. Did you know it's possible for just about any bass lake to be better? I don't mean just a little better, I mean like back in the heyday / golden age better. Well, me neither, till Hall of Fame angler Gary Klein and his biologist bud Stephen Barden sat me down and explained what they have going on. Now, I'll probably get this a little wrong, but the short version as I see it is that Stephen is a private bass biologist who is paid by wealthy folks to make their lakes fish great, like big fish. Not good, but great. In other words, Stephen knows stuff that DNR fish biologists don't or can't know, but he wants to share it, and he is. Now, Gary recognized this early on and brought Stephen into Major League Fishing to start doing all kinds of projects that have an eventual hopeful goal of getting to the point where they can renew major bass fisheries. Gary says that's because he wants bass fishermen now to enjoy the kind of bass fishing he and his buds experienced when they were coming up. Can it be done? I believe so. Some stars have to align, but either way, it's an amazing thing that this is an achievable goal. Man, I can't wait to see bass fishing go from this to this. Bassing on top of the world. Was I even in key a little bit? Just a tiny bit? Yep, bass fisheries can be renovated and renewed, so they're all that in a bag of chips again, man. Number 5. After all that, why don't we just stock the biggest bass, or at least the bass that will get the biggest? As we all know, those are either Florida strain bass or hybrid Florida strain bass like this. Where is the next world record bass gonna come from? Well, you might think Texas, lakes like Ivy or Fork or Falcon, or maybe somewhere, pretty much anywhere in Florida. Or maybe it'll be a California trout eater. Or maybe it'll be another one from Lake Biwa in Japan or another amazing lake out there. Did you know that all those fish in all those places have something in common? All those huge bass caught in all those places all have some variation of Florida genetics. Let's figure out how to get those suckers to survive a real winter. Only one way to find out, man. And if state biologists feel like they need to preserve the genetics of a bunch of little largemouths, they can drop them in a couple private ponds. As far as us fishermen go, we want the bigs. That's all I got for you this week. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Seafoam. Go to BassBlaster.com or .rocks to sign up for the juicy BassBlaster email. Happy Thanksgiving. God bless you.